Welcome to our viewers around the world. I'm Albert Lewitton at the I-24 News headquarters in Tel Aviv. Day 84 of the war in Gaza, and here's what you need to know. Another Israeli soldier has been killed in action. Captain Harel Sharvit was killed fighting in northern Gaza. The 33-year-old was a combat officer in the 7008th Battalion. He was from the Kochav Yaakov settlement. He's being laid to rest right now. These are live pictures of his funeral on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. Sharvit's death raises the Gaza ground operations death toll to 168. Hamas's officials are expected in Cairo later today to discuss an Egyptian plan for a ceasefire. AFP reports that Egypt laid out the plan last week to Hamas and to Islamic Jihad. The plan involves renewable ceasefires and a staggered release of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners in Israel. This plan also provides for a Palestinian government of technocrats responsible for a post-war Gaza. There's been no word from Israel on this report. The IDF raided a house of a Hamas fighter in the outskirts of Jabalia. Inside that house, a wedding album with wedding pictures, but also there, photos of children holding weapons, grenades, RPG launchers. Get this, children holding RPG launchers. Earlier this month, IDF video interrogations showed just how Hamas has exploited children, something that's not discussed at pro-Hamas protests worldwide, and something UNICEF seems to be silent about. A 2-month-long extensive investigation by the New York Times shows the brutality that Hamas has inflicted on women. On October the 7th, more than 150 people were interviewed. Details were so graphic about the systematic sexual attacks on women. Women groups around the world, including the United Nations, stood silent. Investigators with Israel's top national police unit have been gathering evidence. Now, since many of the victims are dead and buried, we may just never know how many victims there were. Joining me now live in studio is Colonel Livie Rafford. He's the IDF spokesperson for the international media. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. The IDF launched a new operation this morning. Can you tell us a little bit about what this operation is?
Good morning. Good afternoon. Actually, there are today more troops in different areas in the Gaza Strip. A new operation has been decided and it has been launched in order to fight and to destroy Hamas terrorists and infrastructures from where they attacked on the 7th of October near Oz. The operation is called Oz near, and the goal is actually to get into this area. It's an area just in front of the near Oz kibbutz, around 2 kilometers from there, and the IDF is actually acting there and doing what they have to do.
Is this to amass information as to how the attack was planned? Why is this specific site being targeted?
This specific site is actually a place from where terrorists left the Gaza Strip and came into Israel territory. It's quite close to Israel and close to a New York kibbutz. And you know the results. It was atrocities, it was rapes, it was killing, mass killing, and terrorists came also with gathered people from the area. Not all the killers were specifically terrorist, I would say, terrorist part of Hamas or Islamic Jihad groups. There were also gathered people joining the mass killing on this day, and we know that we talk about thousands of terrorists with gathered people joining
civilians. These are not. So when you see on social media, oh, the innocent civilians of Gaza, that they had nothing to do. This would seem to think that that's not exactly the case.
It is exactly what you just say now. It was terrorist members of Hamas and also so-called innocent civilian who joined this deadly party. You know, we know even about women who came with the men and they stole shoes of women. Some of them have been murdered, and they took clothes, women's shoes to bring them back to Gaza with terrorists. I mean, it's awful. It's atrocities mixed with a kind of a pogrom atmosphere. And from this part in front of Nero's kibbutz, they left and they came to kill.
And so how does the IDF delineate who was a Hamas fighter and who was a civilian that may or may not have taken part in this?
First of all, we have a lot of intelligence. If you remember, of course you remember because you are part of his program for now many months. Hamas has actually video everything. They took GoPro cameras. Meanwhile, they kill. Meanwhile, they rape, and they film everything. So we have a lot of video and film material that can be used by our intelligence agencies and intelligence offices to know who was where. The last week, we actually arrested terrorists leaving a school. Some of them were part of Nukhba, which is actually what they call the elite or commando unit from Hamas. They were actually part of the killing action on the 7th of October.
So, Livie, there's been some mention online about a strike, an Israeli strike, an IDF strike in Rafah, next to the hospital there. Can you tell us a little bit more detail from that area?
Listen, I have not all the details right now, but what I can tell you that we know from the very beginning, and that's maybe one of the most difficult situations for the IDF, that Hamas is actually all the time, not only using civilian women and kids to kill or to try to kill, using them as a human shield, but they are also hiding themselves behind UN facilities or schools or mosques. So sometimes we have to strike and to hit where they are shooting from or where they are actually situated. But sometimes it can also hit because there is the shrapnels of their facilities. It is actually the result of the Hamas tactics, I would say even Hamas strategy against Israel.
So do we have any indication as to have there been any injuries from IDF soldiers in that situation? Do we have numbers yet? Because the online, you know, once something like this happens, it explodes, pardon the expression, but it all over.
For now, I cannot give you more details.
Okay, understood. Livie Rafford, I'm going to have you stand by 1 second. We're going to go now to Robert Swift, I-24 news correspondent. He's in Sderot, in the southern part of Israel, with more on what's happening right now. Robert, go ahead.
So just over an hour ago, there was a launch of either rockets or mortars from out of the Gaza Strip into 3 Israeli communities close to the border there. This is the first launch of this sort of attack today. It's worth bearing in mind that the 3 communities that were targeted, they're in close proximity to Kirbet Itzcha, which is inside the Gaza Strip. That's where the Israeli military said it's conducting operations, one of the neighborhoods of Khan Yunis. Now, the IDF have gone in there because it is the first time that they're entering that location since it was used as a base of operations to attack the Israeli community of Nir Oz, which is on the border. So it does appear that there is fighting taking place there. The IDF has said that Khan Yunis in general, as well as that neighborhood specifically, are the focus of their attention at the moment. And so it does appear that fighting continues there in the south of the Gaza Strip. But we have also seen throughout the day that combat does continue in the north of the Gaza Strip, also, though possibly to a lower intensity.
Great. Robert Swift joining us from the southern part of southern Israel right now from Sderot. Thanks so much for joining us. Let me go back in studio now to Livie Rafford. So just want to ask you a quick question. Like, when this situation now in this particular area of Khan Yunis, at what point, what is the objective, when will the objective be met? Like, what is the objective of that specific operation? When will it be considered met?
If I may, I would like to give you a general update about the IDF situation right now against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. The fights are very fierce, are very serious in different points in the north still, but also mostly in Khan Yunis and in other what we call center camps in the Gaza Strip. And Hamas has still opposition, still I would say pockets of terrorists against the IDF. What I can tell you, and it's checked a few minutes ago, the results of the fight between the IDF soldiers, combatants, and the Hamas is a full and total victory. Tactical one. Every time that we are meeting them, we are killing them. And sometimes it's difficult to talk about it because no images, no information coming out because it's inside. And many of the action are also underground because beneath the ground you have the tunnels. We talk about not only hundreds but maybe thousands of kilometers of tunnels with, I would say, sub-tunnels, branches basically. Exactly. So sometimes it's very difficult to understand and even to show pictures. But what I can tell you officially and publicly, that the IDF is actually getting more and more results against Hamas. We are killing them where we are meeting them. They know it. They are also surrendering. Sometimes, from time to time, you see pictures.
We've seen video, of them surrendering in mass.
And when they are surrendering to the Israeli troops, they also provide information for further Israeli action. So, on a tactical, strict point of view, today, the IDF is getting very good results against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. We are moving on. We're moving on step by steps. We have a lot of troops. I would say even tens of thousands of troops are in the Gaza Strip right now. I would say the best of the Israeli army, and it's also a terrible pain when we see that we are losing soldiers. And if I may, I would like also, through your channels, your program, salute all the soldiers who have fallen during the combats and be with the families in these very tough days, and also wish prompt recovery for the wounded.
Now, while as do we share in that as well. As we see what is happening in the south, we should also pay mind to what's happening to the north as well against Hezbollah. There have been reports, which you may or may not be able to comment on, that more munitions are headed from Iran to Hezbollah. That says that IDF should be prepared for something more.
Here also I want to be a little bit in the explanation of the situation. Since the 8th of October, so a day after the 7th, Hezbollah joined the war by actually assisting Hamas by opening a new front in the northern border between Israel and Lebanon. And we have incidents every day, more and more in the last 2 or 3 weeks, with more anti-tank missiles, not only against military facilities from Israeli side, but also like against a church or villages, right, or moshavim. They even destroyed poultry industry along the border. 100,000 people have left the area. So the Israeli army is actually along all the border prepared for all development. But I would say that we are prepared right now in a defensive position, not
offensive.
But here I want to be clear, and I want also to convey a message. If Hezbollah, with the Iranian support, because they cannot do anything without Iran, decide to go to a further escalation, the Israeli reaction will be very tough. And messages have been sent by different elements, also by the defense minister and by Chief of General Staff, that Israel will not let Hezbollah attack Israel, and the response, the reaction will be very, very serious against Lebanon. And Lebanon will pay the price of Hezbollah, I would say, military adventurism supported by Iran. They take a big risk, and they know it. They know about it. Right now we respond very toughly. In the last 3 months, we have killed around 150 terrorists from Hezbollah on other operatives working with Hezbollah. So altogether, it's a very tense situation, but still under control, and we don't want war, but we are prepared for more if Hezbollah continues to attack Israel.
Message sent. Livie Rafford, thank you so much for joining us in studio. Thanks again. The Louder Business School has cut its collaboration with